Welcome, listener. This is Sebastian Nothwell here to introduce the first chapter of the audiobook for the queer, cozy fantasy novel A Captured Cauldron by R.K. Ashwick, narrated by Brendan Robert Kane. Enjoy!
Rule 1. Safety first. Dawn. Contrary to her namesake, Dawn loved sunset more than sunrise on Rosamond Street. She couldn't help it. Her wand shop was tucked into the corner of Rosamond and High Vine, giving her the perfect view of the little street at dusk. Much like her wands, the place was beauty and chaos wrapped into a narrow bundle. Crowds rushed toward home or taverns after a long workday, their faces burnished in the last golds and pinks the sun had to offer them. Some popped their heads in to chat with her or the other shopkeepers. Others hurried along, an evening quest on their minds. No matter the city's pace, its bustle and the warm, waning light promised Dawn the same things every time. The peace of a day ended, and the excitement of a night begun. After dusting her cabinets one more time, a wand maker with dirty cabinets wasn't worth her wood. She flipped the store sign to closed and hurried into the street. Despite her best efforts, she was running late today. The last sliver of sunlight had already risen to the upper edge of the chasm above, leaving her in the sleepy shadows on the ground level of the tiered city. But she couldn't rest now, not when she had a promise to fulfill to one Ambrose Beake. "Sherry?" she called, peering into another shop carved into the chasm wall, an open-air forge, dusty and warm. "Is Ames already in there?" A soot-streaked woman looked up from her workbench, her hair matching the gray of the ashes all around her. Despite the mess, the work she held in her gloved hands was nothing short of immaculate. A polished steel helmet, every rivet steeped in protective enchantments and self-healing spells. A daunting masterpiece for any other armorer, but a simple day's work for her. "Afraid so." Sherry jerked her head toward the shop next door. "He rushed in right when Viola closed. Speaking of which..." She flipped her own store sign from "Kettles On" to "Off Fighting Dragons." "Will you be going in to help him?" Sherry continued, dusting off her gloves and releasing gray puffs into the air. Dawn kept a careful distance. The road dust had already half ruined her new pink skirt, and she wasn't about to fully ruin it with the equivalent of forge burps. "I told him I would," she said. "He's really panicking this late?" "Oh, you know Ambrose this time of year. Boy's like a pygmy dragon with its head chopped off." "I'll reattach his head then. Got it." Dawn picked up her skirts and hurried on. "Buy him a cookie for me, would you?" Sherry called after her. "Viola can put it on my tab." Dawn gave her final wave, then ducked into Ambrose's refuge for the evening, the new bakery on Rosamond Street. The midnight snack had taken the place of Eli's old potion shop almost a year ago, and Dawn could hardly see a hint of what it used to be. While Eli's shop had been bright and flashy, filled with crystal and light woods, Viola the baker had embraced the comfort of darkness. She had draped deep velvets in jewel tones across the walls, emphasizing the perpetual glow of enchanted glass stars on the ceiling, as if the atmosphere wasn't already conducive to post-dessert naps. She had also moved in the plushest of furniture, rivaling even Grimm's well-worn couch. Rich pillows, squashy cushions, thrown blankets over soft couches. Every merchant on Rosamond Street had their favorite spot, and every merchant had fallen asleep in it at least once. Currently, Grimm held the record for 15 accidental naps in the corner armchair. But Viola's final addition to the shop had been a staggeringly plain choice. A vast corkboard, studded with sparkly pins in moon and star shapes. "Don't worry, it'll fill up," the gnomish baker had said to Dawn on opening day, her smile accentuating her wide cheeks. "It's a great place for local stuff. Announcements, notices, missing pet flyers, that sort of thing." True to her word, customers had taken to it immediately, filling it with art show posters, theater schedules, help wanted signs, little doodles, and, in the after hours when Viola was cleaning up, Ambrose's plans for PotionCon. "Thank the gods you're here." His voice shot from across the room. "Day 1 is ruined." Ambrose paced in front of the corkboard, where Viola's glittery moon pins now presided over a flurry of schedules, lists, and notes. The papers fluttered like birds each time the half-elf passed, his pale, ink-stained hands darting to various points on the board. "It's always the panels," the potioneer hissed. "They moved my panel on antidotes to tomorrow morning, which means I can't attend the wand demonstration with you until the afternoon. But if I try to catch the later demonstration, I risk being late for the debates." He took a harried breath, his blue hair falling in front of his face, and turned to Dawn with pleading eyes. "Thoughts?" Dawn did her best not to laugh. This sort of Ambrose-specific nuttery happened every year PotionCon came to the Scar. He wanted absolutely everything the 3-day potioneering convention had to offer. Every panel, every talk, every demonstration. He would pore over the schedules for weeks and think, and think, and think. But over the years, she had become an expert in reining in all those thinks. She floated over to the side table near Ambrose, laden with mini sugar cookies gone ignored. "First," she held up a cookie, rainbow sprinkles shining in the light of the glass stars. "Eat this?" Ambrose nodded reluctantly and took a bite. While he brushed crumbs off his navy waistcoat, Dawn took a cookie for herself and perused the ink-marked schedules. Despite all his scribbles, she could read them perfectly, a natural consequence of him showing her the papers every day for the last week. "Second," she tapped the schedule in the center. "You gotta be on time for the debates. That's non-negotiable. What if Xavian picks the first debate slot?" Ambrose hummed through a mouthful of cookie. "Precisely. You can't let them debate someone else." "Absolutely not." Ambrose began scribbling on the papers again. The frenzied glint in his eyes faded, and he slowly returned to his perfect, steady posture. "I'll nix the wand demonstration from my list, then. Thank you." Dawn grinned. Pygmy Dragonhead successfully reattached. "So, you're done planning for the con, then?" Ambrose blinked at her. "No. This was just day 1. "All right, fine." Pygmy Dragonhead sort of reattached. She reached for a second cookie to bolster herself, but a voice from the front counter stopped her. "Hey, before you eat all my day-old cookies." Viola popped up from behind the glass counter, a tray of colorful pastries in hand. "Wanna help me get rid of these cupcakes?" Dawn dropped the cookie instantly. Ambrose hesitated, eyeing the corkboard. "I really should get some fuel for those day 2 thoughts," Dawn finished for him, dragging him over to the counter. The cupcakes on the tray were her absolute favorite. Passion fruit and coconut, daintily topped with sugared edible flowers, and, the passion fruit curd inside. She threw a handful of coins into the day-old jar, specifically set up for after-hours visits like this, then grabbed a cupcake. Viola hopped up onto a stool behind the counter, her grin as bright as the sugared petals.
"Thought you might want some,"
she said proudly, smoothing out her skirt. When it came to fashion, she couldn't have been more different from Dawn. She eschewed lively scarish patterns and colors in favor of black dresses, not caring if flower-formed white runes on the fabric. Her monotone didn't stop at her clothing, either. Black eyeliner ringed her eyes, glittering black nail polish punctuated the tips of her fingers, and just under her folded gnomish ears, tiny black bat earrings fluttered in constant circles. But when it came to her mood, Viola was an echo of Dawn's cheery pink top.
"You gotta tell me what the magic feels like this time,"
she said with a wiggle.
"It's a day old, so it won't be as strong, but I think you'll still like the new spell. Go on, take a bite."
While Ambrose carefully unwrapped his cupcake, Dawn dove in and took a large bite from the pile of frosting. The magic struck her instantly. The distinct scent of a sea breeze, salty and cool, wafted under her nose, while the warmth of a beachy sun tingled across her brown skin. She eagerly took another bite, and the soft vanilla cake added more notes to the breeze. Hibiscus, citrus, coconut.
"Fascinating,"
Ambrose said, chewing slowly as he examined the frosting.
"You were able to fit both scent and feeling into one illusion cake? Just finished tweaking the recipe yesterday."
Viola spun around on the stool, her black braid swinging behind her.
"I'm hoping it'll be a bestseller this winter."
With a delighted hum, Dawn closed her eyes and stretched out her arms, pretending to bask on the invisible beach. As she leaned back, something clattered from her skirt pocket to the floor.
"Dawn, you dropped your—"
Ambrose knelt down to pick it up.
"Wait, what is this?"
She opened her eyes and brightened.
"Oh, I wanted to show you this."
She snatched it from his hand and set it on the table. A small wand, carefully carved and modestly appointed with a single raw crystal at the tip. Clapping her hands together, she nudged Ambrose's shoulder in excitement.
"Guess where it's from?"
Ambrose set aside his cupcake wrapper and pointed to the wand, playing into her little game.
"May I?" Sure.
He picked up the device with long, delicate fingers, analyzing it from every angle with his signature little frown. Though he wasn't wearing his typical potion robes, he looked every inch the studious potioneer, his gaze not missing a single detail.
"It isn't yours,"
he finally said.
"The maker didn't polish it enough, and there are far too many irregularities in the carving.
And you," he tapped the crystal at the end,
"have access to crystals of far higher quality than this."
Dawn nodded eagerly.
"So?"
Ambrose's pensive frown went deeper. Then he lit up, mouth agape.
"An apprentice?"
He gasped.
"Did you actually pick one?" "You're half right."
She plucked the wand from his grasp and flicked it twice. Red sparkles spiraled out of the tip, then vanished in a multitude of tiny starbursts. Good velocity and consistent performance from an amateur's wand, all things considered.
"Got this as a part of someone's application today."
It was a historic time for Dawn's whirling wand emporium. She was now on the hunt for an apprentice, and applications had already poured in from every corner of Lascelles. The resumes practically glowed. Top marks at school, previous wand experience, prior apprenticeships. Viola pointed to the wand.
"So, this applicant's the front runner, right?"
Dawn slumped, thinking of all the other stunning candidates.
Right now she is.
She sighed.
But how am I gonna pick just one? I hear that.
Viola grumbled.
I've been debating on these new recipes for a week.
She propped her ankle up against the velvet stool beside her, the chestnut wood of her prosthetic lower leg sinking into the fabric. From socket to pylon, all up and down the wooden leg, paintings of cupcakes sparkled. Chocolate cupcakes with pink frosting, pink cupcakes with chocolate frosting, then all pink, all chocolate.
Banneker said that if I let the painting sit for a while,
Viola mused.
I'd feel their aura and know which one to pick.
Ambrose snorted. Dawn ignored him.
How about that one?
She pointed to all the pink confection. She could already picture it in Viola's glass displays, a mouth-watering combination of strawberry and raspberry, topped with bright, chunky sprinkles, maybe with a magically fizzy finish, or a cute little spell that changed the buyer's nail color. Viola grinned.
You would pick that one.
Dawn pretended to primp her curly mohawk.
Am I wrong?
A familiar voice chimed in.
You? Never.
Beside her, Ambrose relaxed instantly, as if the cupcake's beach illusion had only just struck him. Eli Valens stood at the bakery's entrance, fully dressed for his adventurer training that evening. Leather jerkin, bracers, a belt made to hold weapons and potions. It was a far cry from his shop owner's vest and dangling earrings, but Dawn adored the new look. He looked comfortable, strapping even. Someone bards would soon sing about, once he started going on big quests. Ambrose could see it too. His gaze roved slowly over Eli, and Eli returned the silent gesture. Dawn bit into her cupcake again, a strong hint of jealousy warring with the sweet icing on her tongue. Insufferable, the both of them. What's this? Ambrose finally strode over to Eli, pointing to the little automaton in the man's arms. At first glance, Tom the automaton looked like an oversized beer mug, until one noticed the broom head, fork arms, and legs made of daggers and wheels. With a soft smile, Ambrose bent down to look Tom in her eyeless face. Is this the little scamp who spilled my coffee this morning? He tugged her out of Eli's arms and planted a kiss on the top of her head. Eli raised his eyebrows. Anything for the taller scamp who cleaned up the spilled coffee? Ambrose looked him over once more and feigned thoughtfulness. No. He leaned in and gave him a quick kiss anyway. With a tilted grin, Eli pulled him back in for a second, deeper one. Dawn chewed faster, jealousy now overpowering any last hint of the coconut and sea breeze. Gods, when had she last been kissed? Months? She couldn't even recall how her last date had gone. And she wasn't likely to have another one soon. Questing season was upon them, and when the adventurers emptied the city, it was time for merchants to tidy their shops, tidy records, tidy all those apprentice applications coming in. She stared at the wand on the counter. That was it. She'd have an apprentice soon. A helpful apprentice who would be eager, no, ecstatic, to tidy things for her. Perhaps her dating days could return, she thought in excitement. Perhaps she could start this month, this weekend even. She had more than a few acquaintances coming to town for PotionCon. What a perfect time to reconnect, brush up on her flirting technique, grab a drink or two at the after-parties.
Oh, almost forgot.
Eli finally let go of Ambrose and dug around in the pouch on his belt. Got today's paper for you. Thought I saw the name of one of your PotionCon buddies in an article. He held out a folded broadsheet, which Ambrose snatched eagerly. Sandon? Or Evie? He set Tom on the ground. No matter, I'll take a look. Thank you. As he wandered off to scrutinize the broadsheet, Eli sauntered over to Dawn, while Tom whirled in wide circles around his legs. Can this little hazard stay with you and Ember while I'm at training? He asked, nearly tripping over her on her last revolution. If you don't want to, Sherry said she can take her. No, I got her. Ember will love the company. Dawn scooped Tom up mid-spin, careful to keep the dagger legs away from her new skirt. Her phoenix salamander, Ember, would indeed love the company. He enjoyed sitting on Tom's head while the automaton roamed the shop. Will you hear about your quest today? What quest? Viola perked up. Eli tried to give a humble shrug as he leaned against the counter, but his grin told a different story. I should hear today at training if I get assigned to my first quest out of the city limits, he said. Orin said he'd have the assignments ready to announce by the end of the week. And the bard songs would be rolling in within the year. Dawn looked forward to learning the words to all of them. Ooh, a big quest! Viola gave a delighted clap. If you need travel rations for the journey, I make a mean cracker. Don't let my sponge cakes fool you. Who said I wasn't going to fill my pack with sponge cakes? Dawn peered over Eli's shoulder at Ambrose, who had his back to them. Ames, what healing brews go best with cake? He didn't respond. All of his PotionCon excitement had evaporated, leaving behind a ramrod posture and tight silence. Something instinctively churned in Dawn's gut. Ames! She called again. He whirled around, his hands folding the broadsheet quickly. I'm sorry, he said. Oh, the quest. Yes, of course, I'll brew him something for it. His weak response didn't work. Eli's gaze immediately went to the paper. What'd the article say? Ambrose swallowed. Nothing. As if to undercut his blatant lie, a little statue on the counter flashed a frenetic white. Every shop on Rosamond Street had one such statue. A small rose of glass and wood, linked to all the other shops for relaying messages and alarms. One brief flash of white indicated a single message. Several indicated a healthy conversation. A lightning storm of them signaled a disaster. Don't listen to them, Ambrose blurted out as the rose statue blinked a near constant white. I assure you it's not a problem. Dawn grabbed the tiny scroll under the statue and yanked it open. Sherry. Barnaby kidnapped. Did you read the article? Banneker. Hold on, wasn't he supposed to be on a panel with Ames? Grimm. 4th kidnapping in 3 months. I don't like it. Sherry. And of course the convention has no official statement regarding security. Can you believe? When Dawn read the messages aloud, Ambrose scoffed. I'm sure it's mere conjecture. Doesn't sound like conjecture to me, Eli said. What did the article say? Ambrose reluctantly handed the paper over to him. It's Barnaby Walsh, he muttered. An ink maker up in the northern quarter. He was supposed to be on a panel with me at PotionCon. The one about cross-disciplinary research and tactics, which, by the way, I was highly looking forward to because... He held up a hand to stop himself. The article claims he has been kidnapped and will not be at the convention. Viola skittered around the counter, her prosthetic punctuating her movements with tiny clinks against the wood floor. I don't get it, she said, standing on tiptoe to look at the article in Eli's hand.
Who would kidnap an ink maker?
Dawn, Ambrose, and Eli all shared knowing glances. Viola looked between all of them in confusion.
What? I'm really asking, who would...
The door swung open with a loud creak. They all jumped, then relaxed upon seeing a familiar orcish silhouette filling the doorframe.
Hey, Grim.
Viola said with relief.
Would you like a...
Sit.
They grunted.
It's time we talk.
Dawn winced. She knew what was coming. She had gotten this lecture as an apprentice, as had Ambrose. Even Eli had gotten the talk during his first month on Rosamond Street. Though, with a rival potioneer to contend with, Dawn was sure he had other things on his mind at the time. But Viola seemed to understand the gravity of the situation. She gathered a stack of day-old chocolate cookies and clustered in with everyone at the nearest table. Grim took a seat at the head of the table, their hulking frame barely fitting in the little chair. Between their permanent frown and the two tusks poking out from their lip, the jeweler's demeanor intimidated many a customer. As a result, they rarely had to deal with obnoxious hagglers or smart-mouthed clients. Dawn was incredibly jealous.
I presume you've heard of Aphos.
Grim began, their ring-encrusted fingers tapping the table.
In passing?
Viola said, squirming like she was failing a test.
It's the city beneath the city, right?
That's what they call themselves.
Grim said.
It's a market town, hidden deep in the lower parts of the chasm. For those who can't exactly buy and sell what they need in our topside markets. Thieves. Assassins.
Kidnappers. Eli muttered. He sat with Tom on his lap, and shoulder to shoulder with Ambrose, who was doing his level best to appear unbothered by the kerfuffle. But he leaned toward Eli anyway, like a flower to the sun. Not having anyone to lean against herself, Dawn simply sat there, trying not to think about the nightmares she'd had about Aphos as a young apprentice, about criminals crawling out of sinkholes and cisterns, lurking in shadows, scurrying in tunnels under her feet.
Aphosians
Grim continued, nodding to Eli.
have their own corner on the underground market. For their illusion spellwork, mostly. You see a device with a kraken branded on it. It's theirs. But their community doesn't always have the specialized skills they need for a certain product or job.
So, they kidnap people.
Viola swallowed.
People like us.
Despite Dawn's attempts to block her childish nightmares, her palms began to sweat. Everyone at this table, everyone on Rosamond Street, had unique skills. Dawn herself had honed hers to a fine point, and had no problem showing them off through her various trophies and certificates. But in the shadow of that accomplishment was a threat that one day Aphos could find her abilities particularly valuable to them. The same thought must have been running through Viola's head, for her eyes wandered over her shop, full of glitter and comfort.
But I mean, they wouldn't want...
Grim held up a hand in reassurance.
Rosamond Street is safe. We haven't had a threat in years. I'm only telling you, so that you watch out for yourself when you're out and about around the city, particularly this time of year.
Eli's face darkened. Questing season, he said, his grip on the newspaper tightening. There are hardly any adventurers left in town. If anyone wanted to hire someone to rescue Barnaby... Ambrose laid a firm hand over Eli's.
Barnaby won't be down there forever,
he said, voice taut.
Aphos lets people go once they're done with their forced commission. Don't they?
He looked at Grim in a silent command to reassure his boyfriend. The orc took a cookie, but left it unbitten, instead waving it as they spoke.
Aphos has no interest in harming their resources, nor are they inclined to feed and house them forever. I'd bet 20 talons your Mr. Walsh reappears in his ink shop a week from now. No worse for wear.
Viola, for her part, took a cookie and stuffed the entire thing into her mouth.
Are you still gonna go to Potion Con?
Ambrose scoffed.
Of course I'm going.
Dawn would have bet 20 talons on that response, but Eli didn't seem so reassured.
Maybe I should go with you. My dear, you're about to go on a quest.
Dawn wiped her palms on her skirt.
I could tag along with him.
Ambrose gestured to the corkboard.
No, we made a plan. You have a different schedule for day 1. The wand demonstration. I can skip it. No.
Ambrose extricated himself from the packed table.
I appreciate all the concern, but
He huffed and straightened his waistcoat.
Potion Con is perfectly safe. I will be attending as normal, and you,
He pointed to Eli.
will be going on your quest, which, by the way,
He dug up his pocket watch. Eli cursed and stood abruptly, launching Tom from his lap. All right, well, he gave Ambrose a kiss, then narrowly avoided tripping over Tom on his way out the door. Just stay safe, all of you.
I can't help you if I'm fighting Fey Raptors in the Vineheart next week.
Dawn gasped.
Is that what the quest is going to be?
With any luck. Eli tried to grin back, but the gesture was weak. Oh, Viola, if there are any leftover cinnamon rolls, could I... Viola waved him along.
Go. I'll pack one for Ambrose to take back for you.
You're the best! Eli took off down the street, leaving the others to pick up the shards of the evening's peace. Grim finished their cookie and began a low conversation with Viola about gingerbread recipes. Dawn continued fiddling with the gifted wand, working out her lingering anxiety. And Ambrose stood before the corkboard once more, hands on his hips, Tom whizzing around his ankles.
All right.
He swallowed.
Scheduling day 2.
That was the first chapter of the queer cozy fantasy novel A Captured Cauldron by R.K. Ashwick, narrated by Brendan Robert Kane. You can listen to the full story wherever you find your favorite audiobooks. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back next week with more Right Here, Right Queer.